In a moment, this fella is going to point at this aisle. He's going to highlight something, and in particular, he's going to separate what he highlights from the one thing on here that's food. Yeah, it's still not great. It's not a great option, but he's going to talk about almonds. And when I see things like this, or when I saw this in particular, it made me think about what it's like interacting with people, what it's like watching people, how they conduct themselves online and in real life. It made me think of how most people talk about propaganda, and very few people say things free of propaganda. What they speak to isn't full of fucking fallacies. In other words, you could use what this guy says in this video, and so far this video stands up. He's not shopping around propaganda so far. I'm going to watch the whole thing, but it is rare to find a video that is an absolute dog shit. In addition to that, you can use the clip that's coming up, like I said, and you can think of it in... What am I trying to spit out? I'm very tired. I'm going to bed in a minute, but that's my excuse. You can use it as an analogy. You can use it as a visual aid to highlight what I'm driving at in terms of you and I being surrounded by people who don't have the first fucking clue what's going on, which means they're fucking everything up for them, you, me, everybody. And that's why things are bad and getting worse. All right, on with the show.
Oil, silicon dioxide, anti-caking agents. Like, what are we doing? So out of this entire aisle, you have regular almonds. Everything else is not even food. You have one option.
You picking up what I'm putting down? And you talk to people and it's just propaganda. It's just more propaganda. And they want to argue with you if you challenge them. They freak the fuck out if you challenge them. They lose their fucking minds if you present them with information that quite literally contradicts the propaganda that they want to believe in and talk at you about. And these days, I mean, they'll block you and all the other shit that comes along with that after throwing a fucking, tantrum.
Since this app is getting banned, fuck it. Hydrating yourself, you have to drink food coloring. If you have a headache, you need to eat food coloring. If you want a mouthwash, you have to mouthwash with food coloring. Brush your teeth with food coloring. Sweat less with food coloring. Wash your body with food coloring. In America, this should only be acetaminophen. But only here do we add all of these extra random ingredients to the concoction. Always food coloring. Dye your hair with food coloring. Wash your clothes with words that none of us can even read. Snack on food coloring, multiple food colorings, of course. We can drink microplastics. When you break down everything in this aisle, it's just oil, salt, and some sort of carbohydrate mixed with a ton of hyperpalatable ingredients that are no good for you. If you need energy drinks, there's something underlying that's wrong. Or candy, same thing for children until you get older and understand the effects on gut health. Cookies are actually not even real food. It's just sugar and junk. Now they're even freeze-drying our candy to make us think it's better for us. If you actually look at the ingredients on these versus these, they're the exact same. Eat some foaming Skittles. Nuts and seeds could and would be good for you if you didn't buy them in America, because this should be a cashew with rosemary and sea salt. But it's a cashew with sugar, peanut oil, silicon dioxide, anti-caking agents. Like, what are we doing? So out of this entire aisle, you have regular almonds. Everything else is not even food. You have one option. Same thing, your crackers, your snacks, your cookies, your chips, no options. Imagine if everyone in the world knew, wow, that's the only healthy thing in this entire aisle. We have turned actual fruits and vegetables into juice drinks, stripping them of a majority of their nutrients. You see, proudly baked in the USA. Of course it was, because it's going to contain a bunch of food coloring. We're in another aisle of just food coloring, grains, and oils. I mean, this one's so colorful it's crazy, but it cools your mouth. Wonder what ingredient they're using over here to cool our mouth. Well, that's right, probably banned ingredients. You got your yummy non-omega-3 fatty acid oils, which yes, you need omega-6 and omega-9, that's normal, but they use that and all the other things that have the bad ingredients. We have Jell-O, which is going to contain maltodextrin, acesulfame, aspartame, and food coloring. But remember, it's because it's an American company. So you can see, American company, sucralose, HFCS, high fructose corn syrup. So here's where it comes together. You have Heinz, an American company. There's your HFCS again. Then you come over to the ketchup and there's your HFCS again. But here you go again, and there you go again. Some of the foods over here are engineered so good that other brands can't wait to get a part of it. But remember, they're always American companies, selling to Americans things that are banned in other countries. So based on everything that you've just seen, with boxes of corn syrup, end caps of supposedly edible, do you really think they're banning it because it's a national security risk? Yeah, imagine everybody walked down the grocery store aisle and didn't buy a single one of these foods because they knew that only the large corporations can afford to be sitting on the end cap, because then they can be loaded with a bunch of ingredients that aren't good for you as a human, because they're all just creating different forms of the same thing. So why would all of these companies in the United States of America want an app banned in the United States of America? I think you know the answer to that question. See you on my other platforms, I guess.
There's quite a few fellas, and some gals too, actually, who talk about the same thing having to do with grocery stores being full of poison. You don't see anything new come up, mind you. You see the same fucking racket, which is what the guy was rattling off, and that shit holds water and it's relevant, and you and I, we're being poisoned here in the States, among other things. I mean, we're crop dusted and everything else, but people don't believe in that. It's insane. So something I've brought up that people don't bring up in these channels, and what I wanted to illustrate there is the guy was claiming that TikTok's being banned because you can't talk about things like he just talked about, but you can, and people do on YouTube, but in particular LifeLog 2.0, otherwise known as Instagram. And make no mistake, it's an extension of LifeLog. It is. One of the things I've mentioned is you shouldn't keep cleaning products next to food. But when you go to stores, typically speaking, you will find a cleaning section having to do with, cleaning your clothes or rat traps and other shit like that. And sometimes it's wedged in between the aisles. Sometimes you'll have the health section. You'll have the rat traps and, the rat bullshit and your detergents. And then on the other side, you'll have all of the poison that people, assume is food that's being targeted, at impoverished people. Keep in mind, there really isn't a middle class anymore in America because of, there was a design to systematically destroy that. And for the most part, that has, come to fruition in a number of ways. I mean, if nothing else, it's a percentage, and I'm not part of it. Definitely not part of it. It's just one of the many things that I've brought up in the past that you don't hear people bring up because people aren't fucking thinking. They'll complain about, the high fructose corn syrup and all that other shit. But they'll totally gloss over the fact that if you have chemicals in the fucking store and it's near your goddamn food, it's going to leach into these things. It's a fucking fact. Think about it. If you consider the packaging for a lot of the food, not just the stuff in cans, but some of the boxed food. You can think of macaroni and other shit like that. If it's cardboard, just think about if there's moisture in the air. Think about the chemicals used to clean some of these things. And imagine that dancing around in the air, along with the moisture, and coming into contact with cardboard boxes, and then leaching into your fucking food. That's what I'm getting at. Part of it. I mean, that's a shitty way to put it. Some of you might say, oh, that's a pseudo-intellectual explanation. But it does do that. It does do that. It just depends on where you live. If you live in a humid climate and the grocery door, is constantly fucking opening, is the atmosphere on the outside and on the inside? Well, if so, motherfucker, it's a symbiotic system and these things are dancing. Either way. This is one of the many things. You don't hear new shit come up. You don't hear people fucking thinking. You just see them playing follow the leader and repeating the same shit online. That's what I'm driving at. And so by the end of the fucking video, he is full of shit. And like I began the video, or how I began the video, most people shop around pointless shit. That wasn't the worst example, But he doesn't understand what's taking place, is my point. And he is doing something that is, it's not original, it's not new, it's not thoughtful. It's the same old fucking tired song and dance, which means he's not pushing himself. He's not pushing the envelope. He's not striving, to... What are all the things I always rattle off that are in a lot of the other videos that have zero fucking views and most of you will probably never fucking take the time to consider?